Eugene Bareman, welcome to my podcast.
Thanks for having me, Dom. It's good to be here.
Mate, it's an absolute honour. The Mad Genius. That's your nickname? One of the nicknames? What else is there?
Not one that I've given myself, but some people throw that around, yeah.
Yeah, how does that sit with you?
I'm far from a genius, yeah. That's definitely not an apt description of me, but I'm a little bit mad, but yeah, maybe the mad part and not the genius part.
It's an honour to have you around here. I'm a big fan of UFC and MMA, but I enjoy watching it, but I don't really know what's going on. There's probably like a diverse group of people listening to this, some that would have no idea what it's all about. Yeah. So MMA, mixed martial arts, and UFC, Ultimate Fighting Championship, are they the same thing?
They are not exactly the same thing. So the UFC is the biggest organization that run MMA shows, MMA fights. You'd think of them as like the NBA. So there's basketball leagues all over the world, right? But the NBA runs the biggest one, the one that everybody aspires to. And the UFC is the equivalent of the NBA. So if you're an aspiring MMA fighter, you're trying to get into the UFC league. And when you've got into the league, then you're in the big time. MMA is the actual sport itself. So that would be basketball. So MMA, basketball, NBA, UFC. That would be a pretty good description, I think.
I think that's a great. Thank you for that explanation. That explains a lot.
Yeah.
And you're like a guru in the MMA UFC world. City Kickboxing, your business. Well, it feels like you're about to interrupt me.
I'm a coach. I don't know.
Oh, this is going to be a tiring. This is going to be a hard podcast. You're so modest. You are like what you've done. What you've done's incredible, isn't it? Like, are you able to sit back and go, yeah, I did that well, or I didn't do that well, or are you just?
I don't know. Did people do that though? I know.
You're a deflector of all your success,
and I think successful people never truly find the success that they're driving to get all the time. So people sit here and tell you you're successful, but in my mind I'm like, well, fuck, man, I haven't done this yet, and this yet, and this yet, and this yet. So the list of things that I want to achieve and be successful at is longer than the things that I've already achieved and been successful at. I guess that kind of where my mind goes when you hear that.
Like a growth mindset.
Yeah, it's a growth mindset. So you're like, oh yeah, I've achieved a bit, but I've got so much more to achieve and do. Right. So I guess that's probably why I'm reluctant to say that I've reached massive levels of success. But guru, all of that, I'm just what I am is a guy that's the first person to get up and open the doors in the business and the last person to go to bed and close the doors of the business. First person there, last person to leave, been that person for the last 25 years. So any success I have can be attributed to that.
Yeah, I mean, but there's this podcast might sit uncomfortably with you because it's kind of like maybe a bit of like this is your life, which maybe won't sit comfortably with you. But you've helped accelerate some careers and make some fighters in what was essentially a niche sport household names. Like there's the Stylebender, Dan the Hangman Hooker, Shane Young, Blood Diamond, Carlos coming in. They're just ones that I can name, and I'm not huge on the sport. But then there's so much other stuff you've done as well with City Kickboxing, like what you call it like a gym for lost souls. I think I've heard that, and it's you're kind of like a gang leader in a way, in the best possible way. Like you've got this collection of ragtag misfit people, and you've sort of given their life purpose and direction.
I have people from all facets of life. I have, misdirected, misguided people, but I have very, very successful people too. Some of the top lawyers, top owners of big businesses in New Zealand, all training under the same roof. But what they all have in common is they're all searching for a little bit of release and to find themselves a little bit. And for whatever reason, whether you are a gang leader or whether you are one of New Zealand's top lawyers, you seem to be able to, you gravitate to the same thing, and that's martial arts. And coming in, sweating, learning the art, hitting a bag, hitting pads, learning to control people for whatever reason, no matter what area of the society you're in, you have that same pull towards the same thing, and it makes people feel good. And I think I'm in the business of making people feel good, a little bit of escapism, a little bit of just, let's just get away from everything and put our full concentration into this and forget the worries of life that we've got on just for an hour. Yeah. I provide that, I think.
Look at your eyes light up when you talk about it. You
yeah.
just love fighting, don't you? And helping people, I think.
I love martial art. I love what the gym does. I love the gym environment. I love what it does to people, because it's like when you're a kid, you immerse yourself in your imagination. So you go away and you play with your Legos, you play, Indians and cowboys and whatever, and you, for that moment, you believe you're in it and you're real, and you lose that going into adulthood. Well, what the gym does, the gym is just a big playground. It's where adults can come and be like, man, I'm this person, I'm that person, and they can just escape in a little bit of, it's reality, but there's a little bit of like, misreality in there as well, because they just get to escape. And I think that you need that when you're an adult. You need to get away and just be with yourself. The only thing that matters is what's in front of me and what I'm doing right now. There's just not many moments in an adult's life where they can do that.
And are you still driving like an old white Honda Civic? In the Stylebender movie, you feature in it quite prominently. I want to get into that later. This is your podcast. It's not Izzy's podcast. Yeah. But you're driving this like beat up old rusty white Honda Civic.
Yeah.
And I want to know, is that like staged for the movie, or is that your car?
No, that's my car. I just got rid of it. Like literally just got rid of it.
Did you even get a trade-in on it, or you just had to like dump it?
So it was sitting in my garage, and my wife got a new car, and then we had another car, and it was just basically taking up too much room, and something had to go. So I was forced to get rid of it. But yeah, it brought a tear to my eye. But
it did not.
Yeah, no, what man? I had that car for, would have been close to 20 years, and it took me to the gym back and forth. Took all my fighters, like Israel. All my fighters have memories of that car, because we travelled the country, going from city to city, fighting in the back of that car. Yeah, and it did the job. Good old Honda Civic.
But you from the research I've done on you, like you're not motivated by money at all. But you didn't have to be driving that car. That was a choice on your part. What are you driving now? Not a McLaren.
No. I'm driving a not quite as old, but reasonably old Toyota Yaris.
Yaris.
Yeah. Toyota
It's like
Yaris.
an old lady's car.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna lie. I'm a bike guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm a motorbike guy. So I've got a couple of nice bikes, but the cars, they just get you from A to B.
Yeah. Hey, and so you're on a brand new TV show on TVNZ Online called Motivation, which is kind of like I don't know, the easiest way to explain it's probably like New Zealand's Got Talent, except it's got the worst prize ever. The prize is like a 1 year scholarship at your gym to get the crap beaten out of you. How did they get you over the line for that? Because I get the feeling you don't overly enjoy talking about yourself.
This is probably you're one of the only persons to ask this questions in my little media round that I've done, but at least half of that idea was my own idea. Yeah. So I got together with some producer friends, and I thought it might be a good idea. So I kind of floated it to them. Then we went back and forth with some ideas, and then it turned into what it turned into. But it was half of that was at least my idea. Which half I don't know, but yeah, I was all for I just thought it was the right time. I thought it was the right time to expose some parts of the gym that I was previously not wanting to expose. I thought it was the right time for, I guess, the public to have a look inside and the inner workings of the gym or the inner workings of the sport.
I started watching it. It's a phenomenal watch. So you got fighters that are already, they're not complete novices. So some of them have had like 100 fights.
Yeah.
And then they come to City Kickboxing, and suddenly they're, sparring with Dan the Hangman Hooker, and they get their ass kicked. So suddenly they feel like a fish out of water or a novice, and the reality is they're still experienced fighters. It's a real fascinating insight.
Yeah. I mean, again, for the viewers that aren't familiar for MMA, it's like it would be like a club rugby player getting, he gets to train with the All Blacks for 4 weeks, so he's going to get his ass kicked for a while until he can. But at the end of those 4 weeks, he's going to be very familiar with the environment. He's not going to be at All Black level, but he's going to have one foot through the door, and he's going to somewhat know what he needs to do to get where he wants to go. And that was more like the approach of getting them involved with the higher level guys, and I hope people enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's bloody great, and I'd urge people to check it out. Yeah, Relentless on TVNZ. Okay, so let's get back to your early years. So you're Dutch dad, Samoan mum.
Yep.
Can you sort of like break down your inner workings and figure out what comes from where?
All definitely from my parents, from my upbringing. I had, and still do, because I shouldn't talk about them in past tense because they're still around. I have terrific parents. My dad's a wonderful dad, very, I guess he's a Kiwi, but some very Dutch values. He provided us kids with everything we needed, every opportunity. And my mum was a fairly heavily religious lady, so that's where we got those sort of values about being honest and truthful and the more typical Christian values. I also got, and I look back at this now and I'm thankful for this, but I also got a lot of freedom, I feel. I got a lot of freedom to make mistakes. And that's not something I've necessarily carried on with my kids. I feel like I've gone the other way. I got a lot of freedom. Yeah, I just got to do things, and I didn't necessarily have to check everything off with my parents. My parents weren't helicopter parents. They gave me an opportunity to do things, and they gave me an opportunity to make mistakes and learn from them. I have not carrying on that. I'm not carrying on that philosophy for sure. I just
don't think it's done these days, is it? The old you give someone enough rope. That's the saying.
Yeah,
but you seem like a super driven kid though. Like I heard stories about you. So your rugby was your go-to sport. You were pretty good at rugby. Reasonably, like first 15 at your school when you were 15.
I was the first 15 captain and stuff, so I was okay. I suffered from, I think, rugby is, and especially the professional era, like I was this relatively small person, and rugby's, or at least at the moment, is the game of giants in it at the moment. So in terms of a professional career, I think I was never going to be big enough. And I also was very dedicated and trained really, really hard. And at the lower levels of rugby, sometimes you don't have like-minded people around you. So, like, sometimes kind of like it can dig at you, it can get to you.
Yeah.
So you're making all this effort. They're not professional, so they're not making an effort, and it's that inequality. You're like, man, very frustrating. So that's where I found a little bit of frustration in terms of rugby. Yeah.
So you're better suited to a solo sport.
I think in the end, in hindsight, I think, definitely I was,
Yeah, because I think I heard this on another podcast you did, or maybe read it in an interview somewhere, but so growing up as a teenage boy, you do like long hill repeats on Bullock Track. Bullock Track's like a really steep hill, sort of at the back of like Motat by the Auckland Zoo. It's maybe 300 or 400 metres, but it's like a massive, massive vert. And you'd go out there in the dark on your own, like training for rugby. Like, where did that sort of like, I don't know, self-drive or whatever it was come from?
I have in recent years done a lot of interviews and podcasts and press conferences and stuff, but for most of my life I would say I was definitely an introvert. I loved being by myself, and when I was by myself I felt that was when I felt most comfortable and when I could collect all my thoughts about life. And so when I trained by myself, which I did a lot of, that was where I got into my zone, where I started to think about life and goals and what I wanted to do and where I wanted to end up. I did all of that while I was training by myself. It was not just about the physical training, but it was about the mental release that I got from training by myself in the middle of nowhere and doing all these things. I did a lot of training by myself for sure.
And it was around this time that you met Kara. Yeah, she's your wife now. So you guys were like high school sweethearts.
Yeah.
How did that come about? You're the same age, or is she a year older?
No, we're basically the same age. That wasn't any great story. It was just that was the old typical Kiwi. Saw a girl at a party, thought she looked pretty nice. Went up to her, found out she had some mutual friends. Got introduced by the mutual friends, and yeah, that's all she wrote.
You guys have got 4 kids now, so it's all you've known for each other. So you've been together since you were kids, essentially.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I think it's really powerful stuff.
Yeah,
it's neat.
Man, yeah, it seems a bit of a thing. Man, I got my fighters at my gym can't keep a girlfriend for more than a few weeks, so yeah, breaking the mold a little bit, but. Yeah, I'm not going to lecture them about that. It's a brave new world.
How did the because you left school when you were 15 initially, and you ended up bouncing back to school. But how did the relationship survive when you left school? You think, you and Kara, she's at school, you're not at school. Suddenly you're in different circles.
Well, she went to a different school.
Oh, okay.
So we were lucky in that respect. So she already. So we already had a bit of distance and stuff between us. But yeah, I mean, didn't make a difference when I left school, did it? We were already used to being apart, but. I don't know. We survived. I'm not a womanizer. I don't like talking to women. I would prefer not to. I would prefer to be amongst my mates and amongst a bunch of blokes. Yeah. Look, some guys are good at talking to women and others are not. And I can talk to my female fighters quite well, but I can't say anything on this podcast about female fighters, but
you can say whatever. You can say whatever you want.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the masculine side of those women make me feel a bit more comfortable communicating with them.
Okay, I got you. That
trying to put it nicely.
Yeah.
But I just wasn't a womanizer, and
I suppose the woman in that sort of fighting environment, I mean, it's probably a very laddie sort of environment, very testosterone-fueled environment, so they probably need to...
They are very feminine women when they want to be, but the fact of the matter is they're in a masculine world. Yeah, they're surrounded by blokes, they're surrounded by testosterone. And, man, to be a woman in a fight gym, you've got to be tough. You've got to be tough, and sometimes you have to let go of some of your more womanly or female characteristics just to survive. So yeah, maybe that's why I get on okay with the woman fighters.
Imagine if you found yourself single, like you'd have to trim your beard, maybe wear something other than a swan dry. The Civic, you need to get a nicer car to pick people.
It's never going to happen.
Yeah, there was an amazing story about you, which I'm sure you've told a million times before, so you're probably sick of telling, but it fascinates me because here you are, 17, 16-year-old Eugene. So you leave school at 15. You realise that it's a shit show out there without any qualifications, and there's very limited options. Just the fact that you had the foresight to think that, I think, when you're 15, I don't know, when I was that age, like a job's a job. Like if I was getting a couple $100 a week, I would have been happy with that. But you decided you wanted more for your life, so you went back to school. The school basically just wanted you back to play rugby, but you wanted to go back to study, and you spent basically every spare second of every day in the school library.
Yep. I mean, that if you want to put my life leading to what it is now in one pivotal moment in my life where everything changed, it was that moment when they weren't going to let me back into school, and I had the realization that I had effed up everything at school. I effed up my life up until that point by not paying attention in school, not realizing the importance of an education. And what it did for me was it forced me into a situation where my back was against the wall and I had to basically learn my entire 4 to 5 years of schooling in 1 year. And at that point, I felt like the success or what my life was riding on was how well I did that. And so I took that pressure and I tried to turn that pressure into something positive, and at the end I got my qualifications. But what it more made me realise too is like, mate, I can actually, I never saw it in myself that I had the potential to do anything that I wanted to do. I just didn't. I thought I was just a kid, and when you're a kid you think, oh, I'm just a kid, I'm going to grow up pretty normal and not going to do any extraordinary things. And it changed all that. It just made me realise, man, if I work hard, I have the potential to do whatever I want, especially if I achieve this. And from that moment I knew I could be successful at whatever avenue that my life took me down.
Yeah, it's inspirational stuff. So you'd go to the library and you'd set your alarm for 3 hours, and then even if you got all your work and your study finished, then you just keep going and to fill in that 3 hours. I mean, it's just astonishing, really. Like it's just a work ethic that I don't know. I think when you get older as an adult, you can have more of an appreciation of it. But to have that at that age as a 16, 17-year-old boy, when all your mates are outside playing sports or whatever, it's amazing sort of laser focus.
It was tremendously hard. I know that because, and I really, really hope that what I had essentially done was drift through third, fourth, fifth and sixth form without learning virtually nothing. I hope that doesn't go on today. I hope the education system now picks up those kids that are drifting like I was and plucks them out and helps them. But yeah, I ended up with nothing, so I had to go straight back to the start and try and learn everything in a year, and it was tremendously hard. I would probably not do it again, but the reward I got out of that was, man, I just got an empowerment out of it, right? So I wouldn't change it for the world.
And that sort of changed the trajectory of your life a little bit. So then you left school, went to law school, and then you discovered fighting, so you dropped out of law school. Is that one year of law school?
Yeah.
How were your parents? They must have been spewing.
Yeah.
Oh, were they?
Yeah. Well, when you get someone get into law school in your family, then current law students now and lawyers now, and it's the big thing, right? It's like, oh, you just got into law school, got into Auckland, got into Otago. It's a big thing in your family, right? So, I walked into a gym and I just got the bug, and then I knew that was what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I was quite sure that after I had a couple of fights that that's what I wanted to chase, that's what I wanted to do in some form or manner. Yeah.
But you can see your parents' concern, because it's like you've done all this hard catch-up work at school, and then you get into law school, and then suddenly you're throwing it all away for a career with no options.
Yeah, but
you're throwing it away for a hobby, essentially, aren't you? I mean, you've turned it into a wildly successful career, but at the time, it was a hobby, more or less.
It's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. Because you just mildly offended about 40 or 50 guys in my gym just then by calling it a hobby. What
I mean, I don't want to fuck with you, those guys. No, what I mean is like when you started, so from your parents' perspective, you're 18, 19, they're like, so you're quitting law school for what?
Yeah.
Because I saw also talking about the guys in your gym. Like I saw a YouTube clip a couple of weeks ago, and it was Joe Rogan on one of the late night talk shows like 20 years ago, explaining what UFC is. Like everyone knows what UFC is now, but like when you were starting out with your fighting, it was like, it wasn't like there wasn't a potential career path that there is now.
100%. Yeah, I mean, trust me. From the outside, people are like, this is ridiculous. Like you're going to stop law school to basically chase a sport or a hobby. But martial arts, when you get really deep into it, is a lifestyle. It's a code by which you live your life. And so that's the side that I was committing myself to. But I also, I knew from my experience in life up until that point, especially the pivotal point when I decided I'm going to change my life and be like, nah, bugger that. I'm going to go to university and change my life. I'm going to give me some good options into the future. I also knew that I could achieve anything I wanted to achieve. I felt I had that in me. So, although my parents and from the outside people wouldn't have seen that, I backed myself at that point. Yeah, I backed myself for sure.
And it's paid off handsomely. So you were a fighter, and you're quite a good fighter. 49 fights all up?
Yes, across 3 different disciplines. Yeah.
What are they?
Kickboxing, Muay Thai,
Yeah.
MMA, and I had a boxing fight.
Right.
Yeah.
And I watched a clip on YouTube just before you came over. I think it was your 49th and final fight. And there was a quote at the end. You said it's one of the best feelings in the world, like win or lose. How is it the best feeling in the world, even if it's not a successful night?
Nothing when you're going out and leading into a fight. Nothing in your not an instinct in your body or anything in your brain says that it's a good idea and you should be gravitating towards it. Everything, every hair on your body, every thought in your brain says, don't do it. This is the stupidest thing that you could sign yourself up to. Overcoming that, whether you win or lose, is the fight. That's the battle. That's the battle for most fighters. Yeah. The secondary battle is the result. But firstly, just to get in there and beat all of those demons, that is an amazing feeling in itself. Yeah, amazing feeling.
Oh, you love it, don't you?
Yeah,
you love it.
Man.
How do you find not being a fighter now? Like watching other people, is it sort of like you vicariously living through them in a way?
Well, it's tremendously difficult. It's tremendously difficult because obviously as a coach you can only control so much of the environment. The rest is up to them. And so that lack of control that you have, it really eats at you. It's much, for anybody, young fighters or old fighters aspiring to be a coach, 100 times easier to be a fighter. 100 times easier to be a fighter.
Why so?
I'm in charge of everything.
Right.
I'm in charge of what I do. If I perform, it basically comes down to me. Everything that happens on that night, win, lose, draw, what decisions I make, whether I perform well, it all comes down to me. I'm in control of it all. The coach has a very helpless feeling of not being in control because it's not them fighting. Yeah.
So if your fighters lose, you sort of it stings for you as well.
It does. It does sting. It does sting. You've got to really immerse yourself in that fight. You've got to give your full commitment, emotionally, spiritually, physically maybe in the training if you're helping them train, but during the fight you've got to put everything into it. All your intellect, all your brain, all your commitment, everything, all your emotion, it all goes into that 15 to 25 minutes. And man, if they lose, you lose as well. Yeah, you're the same team, you're the same person.
Yeah.
So
City Kickboxing 2007, you opened that up. What were your goals and dreams back then?
They're a lot different to what they are now. Well, I started that gym just so I could fight more. So it could support me doing so it could support me doing my hobby.
Right. So did you sort of think you'd do some personal training, have some people?
I thought I'd have like 30 women come in. Not 30, I can't talk like that anymore, right? I'll have 30 people come in, office men and women. They'll do a workout, they'd pay their fees, and then they'd leave me alone and I'll train all day in this wonderful facility that they're essentially paying for. And that was the plan. But I just found that the realities of owning a small business is completely different to that.
Yeah, really? How so? Just some tough years?
Lease, bills, all these things that I wasn't too accustomed to because I'd lived under my parents' roof. I was suddenly responsible for. I had a lease with many thousands of dollars, and I had to come up with the money at the end of every month. Electricity, all the responsibilities of being a small business owner, they get thrust on you, and you start to realize, man, it's not just as simple as opening the door and letting all the people flood in. You've got to do some advertising. You've got to get a reputation for doing as well. And then, yeah, so it started, that was the original idea, but then it turned into something else. And then, of course, what happened is those 30 office workers that I was meant to get in every lunchtime, they gradually turned into 30 young aspiring fighters. And yet 30 young aspiring fighters don't want to come in and pay their fees and then leave an hour later. 30 young aspiring fighters want to come in. Sometimes they don't have any fees to pay because they've got no money, and they want to stay there all day, and they want to train with you, and they want to know this, and they want to know that, and they want to know this. And then before you know it, your dream of running this boutique little fitness studio turns into this monster. And then it develops into what it is today. But yeah,
Right, it's been a fun evolution though, I guess, at least from an outsider's perspective.
Nah, man, it's been a ride. I'm telling you, it's been like a hell of a ride. I look back, I do look back fondly on all those days from its inception to where it is now.
Yeah, and I've heard you call it a gym for broken souls. Like, what does that mean? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, look, man, if you walk into a gym like mine, a martial arts gym or a fighting gym, you are coming there specifically for that. When you walk into, a health club or Les Mills or something, you're going there to use the weights and to use the machine or to use the treadmills and stuff. But when you wake up one morning and you say, man, I need something, what am I going to do? I'm going to head into this fighting gym, this martial arts gym. Those are people generally that are searching for something in their life that's missing. And that's what I mean. And those sort of people come and gravitate towards the gym, and those are the sort of people that get the most out of the gym because they find what they're looking for at the gym. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
How do you manage the expectations of people that come through the door now? Because due to the success you've had and the profile you've got with the UFC, I'm guessing now there's a lot of people that knock on your door and say, "Oh, I want to be the next style bender," or "I want to be this," or "I want to be that." Like, how do you manage that sort of expectation? Because that's make it to the UFC. I suppose that's that's the 1%er thing, right? Yeah.
With great difficulty. Yeah, with great difficulty, because at the same time, I'm a believer that anybody can achieve their dream. Okay, anybody can do whatever they want if they put the right steps in place and work hard and blah 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 blah. The fact of the matter is, it's only 1% of people make it. So you're trying to balance their expectations with reality is very, very difficult. We're in a day and age now more than ever where I'm getting young people come into the gym and they are coming into the gym and they are dead set on becoming a professional fighter in the UFC or just becoming a professional fighter. And that is tremendously difficult thing for me to deal with. That wasn't even an option when I started fighting. Every fighter in the gym, when I was in a gym, had a job because it just wasn't even an option. Now kids are coming in, 18, 19, 20. I asked a kid the other day, I didn't realize he left school. I was like, "Oh, you left school?" I said, "Oh, have you got a job?" He was like, "Nah, I haven't got a job." I said, "Oh, what are you looking for?" He said, "Oh, probably won't get a job." And I was like, "Well, what are you going to do?" And he looked at me and he goes, "I'm going to be a fighter." And I was like, man, what a crazy world we live in, where now young people are seeing that as an actual
career path.
Yeah, as an option. But I guess it's my job to just let them know, like, not kill their dream, but let them know the reality of the situation, that it's a very tough path to take. And if you want to take it, I'll get behind you. But just understand it's going to take it's going to be very, very hard work to get there.
If someone's got that red hot burning desire, but they don't have the talent to match it, and you know they don't have the talent, are you good at having tough conversations? Or do you reckon even if someone doesn't initially have the talent, if they've got that like sort of work ethic and that drive and that burning desire, that they can overcome anything?
To answer the first part of that, the way that you put it first, I'm going to say that I am probably tremendously bad at having tough conversations. Yeah. I'll tell you why. Because I've never told anybody that they can't achieve their dream. And I know in my head that there's been people in front of me and I know they can't. It's probably a little bit unrealistic to have that goal. And I've never told a single person they can't reach it. But on the... to back myself up here a little bit, I also believe that there has to be a little bit of self-discovery there. That what is the harm in them trying to reach their goal? What is the harm in them trying to reach for the stars? What bad can come out of it? And I know the martial arts journey, you might not get to the top, but I know what it can do for your life if you reach even halfway. I know how much positivity it can bring into your life, even if you don't achieve the exact goals that you set out to do. You're learning a code to live by that is just a beautiful thing. Right,
so it's an intentional thing. You're not scared of having tough conversations, but you just want people to sort of figure it out in their own time.
Let them figure it out for themselves. There's no harm in it. All they're going to do is train, learn martial arts, learn the martial arts lifestyle, live a beautiful, healthy lifestyle, meet some of the best people I've ever met in my life. They're going to meet them. They're going to intermingle with them. It's just a great, positive environment, something that they should be involved with that's going to elevate their life anyway.
Also, you don't always get it right. Like I've heard stories about your initial meetings with your two most famous students, I guess, Dan Hooker and Israel Adesanya. Yeah. You both tried to palm them off to other gyms, didn't you? Is that a fact?
Yeah, a little bit, Dom. But I was also quietly confident that my gym was doing things a little bit differently to the other gyms, and that if they would probably find their way back. Yeah. So.
But you didn't see UFC potential in either of them initially?
No, I did.
You did? Yeah.
I did, but I don't know. Just a part of me wanted them to also see the potential that my gym and my coaches had and I had. So go away, have a look at what other gyms are doing, and then come back and be like, oh, you guys, there's something a little different about what you guys are doing. There's something a little bit different about the water you guys are drinking. So I think I'll situate myself here. Yeah, I wanted them to see that as well.
Wait, what does an average day look like for you? It must be like a time management masterclass. Like you've got 4 kids at home. Well, how young is the youngest? Like preschool age, right?
My wife's going to kill me. I'm going to say 4. 4. Fuck, I could be wrong there.
Yeah. So what does a day look like? What time are you up?
4:30. My alarm goes every day for the last however many years, decade and a half, maybe even the last 20 years. 4:30. I get it. I drag myself out of bed, grab a protein shake, jump on my motorbike, go to the gym. I'm there about 5. Yeah, I'm there about 5. Take a few classes, train fighters up to about now, 1, 2 o'clock. Go home, pick up my kids from school, get them come, have some food with them, a little bit of homework, play around a little bit, back to the gym at 4. And then I'm at the gym from 4 till about 8:30, 9. Yeah, 8, 9. Yeah, so my day's split. But yeah, it's I mean, I don't know how many hours.
That's a long day. So, and then you go home, a little bit of wind down time, or straight to bed, or?
I virtually have to go straight to bed because I get up at 4:30. So if you imagine, I get home around, let's say I get home at 9, eat, spend some time with the wife, my 2 older boys. That gets me to 10. I got to have a shower. What's that? 10:30, and I got to get up and 5 hours later. Yeah, so
that's not a lot of sleep. You're not prioritising your sleep, are you?
Nah, but I mean, I've never slept much. I have difficulty sleeping. If I sleep past 7, I'm happy. I'm like, man, I had a sleep in. If I get past 7 a.m, so yeah, but that's my day. But people, you can sit here and be like, man, that's a long day. It's this and that, but it's not a long day when all you'd rather do in your life is be doing what I'm doing. Then it's exactly what I want to do. And I think that's my best answer to people saying, oh, man, it's so long, such long hours. You do it every day for the last, 15 years. I'm like, yeah, brother, because I'm living my dream. I'm doing what I want to do. I'd probably be there for longer if my wife wasn't nagging me. I'd stay at the gym till 10.
Yeah. That was going to be my next question. Does Kara, does it create friction at home that you're not there enough hours?
It has over the years, for sure. I've gotten a little bit better at that. But look, I couldn't do what I did. There wouldn't be any success. There wouldn't be, there quite honestly wouldn't be an Israel Adesanya or Carlos Ulberg or anyone if there wasn't a Kara Newcomb. That's just the truth. If she wasn't the woman that she was, that basically brought up my kids with a little bit of input, but she did. She's mostly brought up those kids by herself. If she didn't do that and she wasn't graceful about it and let that happen, and supported me, then there wouldn't be those guys because I would be bringing up those kids and dedicating more of my time to my family. So I made sacrifices in that regard. She made sacrifices in that regard, and it is what it is. But yeah, I'm not going to say that it was all bells and whistles over the last 15 or 20 years. There was definitely some shouting matches and some things thrown across the room. But that's life, that's real life.
Yeah,
it's real life.
If you come home late enough so the kids are asleep, she won't want to create a scene. Is that why you I imagine you're sitting in the driveway like.
Is that a trick you use?
So you've been through some just incredible adversity as well. I think most people, you don't get to your 40s without going through some sort of adversity. I think it's the same for everyone.
For sure.
But do you want to talk about the 2012 Tahiti incident with Wilman Rodriguez Gomez?
Yeah.
Who was he? He was a good friend of yours?
A very good friend of mine. Someone I started fighting with, and then at my original gym, and then when I went and started my own gym, he called me up and said, I would like to come across with you when you start your own gym and for you to train me, which is a tremendous honour, right? It's not someone that, it's not a new person coming and asking me. It's someone that I was fighting with and trained with at the same time. So I took that responsibility really seriously. And we went to Tahiti. He had a match in Tahiti, and he unfortunately passed away in the ring because he had maybe a brain aneurysm that wasn't picked up, and it was made worse by the fight. And he got a fatal blow in the fight, and he never recovered. So, another pivotal, life-changing moment for me. I 100% contemplated never doing that sport again.
Because he died in your arms, right? You were there.
Basically, yep. He died in my arms. I grabbed him. I held him. I questioned the medical staff that were working on him, and I was like, why? You need to do this. You need to do this. Yeah, it was a disarray, in the moment, and then it just, when you have things like that happen in your life, when you watch people more or less die in front of you, it leaves an impression, and it certainly left an impression on me. There probably, to this day, I would say there's probably not a day, but maybe every second day nowadays that I don't think of that kid. Yeah, you know, for at least the first decade when he passed away, it was every day. I used to, in some form or fashion, think about my friend Willman, and probably got that down to every second day. But I'm not afraid of that. Like I don't want to forget. You know, I want him to be in my memory. So it's not a negative thing. I like that my thought flashes to him every now and then. I think that's how it should be. So.
I think that's what all anyone wants as well. Like, I don't know, I'm probably projecting here, but like if I was on my deathbed, I think your biggest fear would be being forgotten or people not remembering you. So I think, so I think like living in someone's heart like that or their mind and thinking of them every day or every second day, like 12 years on, I think that's humbling. It says a lot about him and you.
Yep, for sure. Every year I visit him. I don't know. It's just just part of.
Oh, his burial site.
His burial site. Yeah.
And there was another incident when Izzy won his first world title belt. You took the belt to Tahiti. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I strangely think everything's interconnected. You know, I was 100% adamant that I was going to quit the sport at that point, and our original coach, me and Willman's original coach, came over to my house and had a very poignant talk to me, and he put things in a way that scared me, frightened me a little bit. And his words were basically, Eugene, if you leave the sport, how many of your fighters do you think will leave the sport with you? And I said to him, none. I think they'll probably all just carry on. And then I kind of walked into his trap. That's exactly what he wanted to hear. And then he turned to me and he said, is there anyone else on this planet that you would trust to look after those fighters and put the same, and look after them in the same way you do, with the same dedication and the same commitment? And then there was a couple of minutes of silence while I thought about that, and then I turned to him and I said, nah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it still makes me emotional thinking about that moment. I don't talk about it too often, but yeah. I said, nah, you know what? There's no one that'll look after those kids better than me. There's no one that'll do quite as good a job. And obviously a part of that was my ego talking. But at that point, I just knew that he in that one small conversation, he changed my mind completely. And I was like, fuck, I've got to keep going. I've got to keep going. I cannot put these guys in that danger that young fella was in. They can't do this without me. And then, amazing, because I've never had my mind change like that. Yeah, in such a simple conversation, put in such a simple, direct way. Our old trainer, Lolo Heimoli, who still runs a gym, one of the best trainers in New Zealand, one of the best coaches in the world still. I have to thank him for that conversation, because my life would have taken a completely different direction if it wasn't for him bringing me back into the sport. Yeah, powerful.
Yeah, hey, thanks so much for sharing that, because I can tell it's not easy for you to share, so I do appreciate it. Do you think at that moment you changed as a coach? So instead of just like teaching people to go in there and be fucking savages, you're teaching them to look after themselves as well? Or was that like a sort of
100%
turning? Yeah.
100%. I realised the seriousness of what I was doing. I always took it very, very seriously, but I took things to another level. I was like, man, there's a side of this that we love, and there's a side of this that we find fun, but there's a side of it that's so serious. And if we keep doing this and we keep putting our boys in this situation, we've got to get them out of there. We've got to get them back to their family, parents, loved ones, kids, in one piece. So, yeah, I just took that to another level. I took that very, very seriously, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it seems like you're carrying a big burden, but it was ultimately like a pre-existing condition with your friend Willman.
It was, and to be honest, it quite often is. Yeah, there's a young man right now who's been in a coma for about 3 weeks, who in Dunedin, and who's not looking too good at this stage. I'm praying for him and hoping that he pulls through, but again, pre-existing condition. A very simple thing to do would be to get an MRI. MRI is the cheapest MRI you can get is $2,000. It's not a government funded or subsidised test for sports anyway, for recreational sports. So most fighters can't afford to do it and they don't do it. But it would pick up any pre-existing conditions and probably save a few lives. But that's a bigger problem with society that we're not going to go into. But yeah, it's an unfortunate thing that happens in the sport sometimes.
Yeah, and there was another recent incident. It was again another tragedy, but this time completely outside the octagon or the ring. Falvake.
Yeah.
Geez, I rewatched the Izzy fight this morning where he's talking to Joe Rogan afterwards, and he does the tribute to Fao and then puts the belt down on the ground and bows in front of it. It's powerful stuff, It's emotional stuff. So Fao, one of your fighters, very promising young fighter, and then was it like a street attack, like a coward punch?
Yeah. It's just losing people to tragic circumstances is just so difficult. And the difficulty of it is that it's just so avoidable. It's such a waste of life. Tragedies, and when you follow them back and you break down every detail, reverse engineer them, you figure out that there's 1,000 simple things that you could have put in place or done, or walked left instead of walked right, stopped to do your shoelaces up. There's 1,000 things that could have happened that could have prevented that tragedy. And that's why they're such a shame. And that's why they're so hard to deal with, so hard to get over. As well as that was a very close member of our team. Yeah, a very close member, part of a fighting family, part of a family that is dedicated, part of 4 brothers that have dedicated their life to my team and my gym. And now those brothers have gone from 4 to 3 over just some crazy bullshit, over nothing really. So a tremendously hard time for me and Israel and the boys at my gym to deal with. But what can you do, man? You gotta just pick yourself up and keep going, eh?
Yeah, that was gonna be my next thing that I asked you. Like, how do you process that as sort of like a coach / leader, mentor? Like, you're grieving yourself, but also you've got to rally these guys around.
Yeah, for sure. It was tough, but I try to deal with my stuff myself.
Yeah, do you? Yeah. Yeah, just internally.
I internalise a lot and deal with it myself, so I'm definitely not the type of person. I'm not going to sit in front of Janet and talk to her, and that's just not me. And that's fine. I think that's fine. I think everybody has the different mechanisms that they use. I just go within myself and just figure it out myself and get in my own head. I don't need to talk to people about it. So, but that's not the case for everybody. And the problem with having a team that's so deeply affected by this tragedy is you have to put a blanket out there that kind of captures all the different people and different ways that they are dealing with it. And you put this blanket out that kind of figures them all out and brings them all in at the same time. And so I guess that was the difficulty at that time. But it just the way that I put it, and look, this is the thing, man. Like, when I want to motivate some guys, especially that have been through the era of those tragedies, and we've had a couple other tragedies, to be fair, at the gym. it's very easy for me to look at these guys that are on the mat and talk to them and be like, there's some guys that we know that will, if you're not going to put in effort here and you're not going to live in this moment and give this everything, give this sport and this team everything that you can, there's some guys that are looking over us right now that will trade places with you in a second. And that's a very poignant and confronting thing for me to let them know that, because I think they have to be reminded of that. I think every boy trying to be a professional fighter or professional fighters in my gym have to be reminded that it's like life is fleeting sometimes, and you are here now. Like, you have the ability to do all the things these guys who are on our wall on a painting, they don't have the ability to do it. They'll trade with you right now. Make the most of what you're doing. Make the most of this life. Do what you're doing. You've got an hour in the gym, make the most of it. You can become a better fighter. You know, they can't do that anymore. They're doing it through you, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way of reframing it, isn't it?
That's how I frame it.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I enjoy framing it like that. I enjoy using those guys as inspiration and motivation for the guys coming up. And I think it's the truth. Yeah.
Are you a reasonably emotional guy? Do you cry quite a bit?
I would say I don't cry that often, but yeah, there are moments that'll,
Just when you reflect on the hard stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm human.
Yeah.
I'm human, so there are moments that you just, especially, for instance, when you're talking about these guys here, sometimes you just, emotion takes over, man. Those scars run deep. Yeah.
So I find I'm getting emotional as I get older. Like during my 20s and 30s, I could probably count on one hand the amount of times I cried, like Nana's funeral, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And as I get older, I'm more sort of open to it. It's quite confronting though, eh?
Yeah, but I think you've got to admit, as you get older, you give life more value, right? 'Cause you've seen more things, you've seen more tough circumstances and tragedies, and you're like, man, you just value life a lot more, and you value your time way more than when you're young. When you're young, you think you're going to carry on forever.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, actually, there was a scene in the Stylebender movie where you're on the sofa next to Izzy, and you start crying or getting quite emotional when you're asked if there's a point where you thought you couldn't face the day. Yeah, do you have many of those days?
Yeah. No,
No.
I don't. I don't have many of those days at all. But that was in reference to that tragedy with Foal. Yeah, with Foal just happening, and just to clarify, by not facing the day, never in any way meant offing myself. Sometimes there were days where I was just like, man, just let me stay under my bed sheets and just hide there or let me fall off into obscurity. Let me move down to Invercargill and Stewart Island and just let me live the rest of my life there. Like, just fuck, I'm human, mate. Like, when you're facing something like that, you're like, man, I just get me away from all this. Get me away from this heartache. Get me away from this pain. Let me escape, because this can't be happening. This can't be real. So I'm not the person that'll probably, that'll off myself one day, but I definitely go through thoughts of like, man, is this all worth it? Just get me out of here. I don't want anything to do with this pain, with this heartache. Just chuck me in Invercargill. The reality is the pain follows you, right? Pain follows you. It follows you under the bed sheets. It follows you to Invercargill. So, but just for a fleeting moment, you're like, fuck, I need release from this. I need to get out of this. But the pain follows you. The only thing that ever helps with pain like this is time. Time. And it never really heals properly. No,
because there is that saying that time heals the wounds, but I don't know. I think your body just doesn't really necessarily heal the wound. The body just learns to adapt with this extra burden or pain you
like
carry.
patches it up a bit, eh?
Yeah.
And it's always like underneath the plaster. It's always
Yeah.
there. Man, when you lose someone so close to you, it can never leave you. Yeah, for sure.
That's tough. Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Also, your Honda Civic, it wouldn't have made it down to Invercargill.
Yeah, Invercargill's a wonderful place. I quite like Invercargill.
Yeah, do you? Yeah. Hey, oh yeah, and you could wear your bush shirt there all year round.
Yeah, I'd fit in down there, I reckon.
Yeah.
I'd fit in
Hey,
down there.
let's talk about the UFC for a bit, because it's such an intriguing. Is it the fastest growing sport in the world?
I believe it still is.
Yeah, it's amazing. Dana White. Do you know Dana White at all? Have you met him? You had some meetings with him?
If we passed each other on the street, I'm sure we'd recognise each other, but I haven't had big, long conversations with him at all. The longest conversation I had with him was at a fight a few months ago. Yeah, I just asked him, are we the ones fighting on UFC 300? Is it going to be us? And then he told me, no, it's not going to be us. It's going to be another Alex Pereira. And then I just said, cool, thank you. And we moved on. That's the longest conversation I've had with him.
Wow. He's done a great job from a business perspective, but I suppose you sort of come at it from a fighter's perspective. And I know nothing about any of this, but all I know is like I saw a Conor McGregor interview and he said, I've made more money than anyone else in the UFC, but I've also been ripped off more than anyone else in the UFC in terms of, I suppose, what they pay the fighters versus what they're making as a company. You got any thoughts on that? Do they screw the fighters over a little bit?
I believe that they could probably share more of the profits. Yep, for sure. Not going to get into, we can't, I'm not going to get into numbers. That needs someone who's much smarter than me to talk about that. But it's a sport where the fighters make a lot of sacrifice. Yeah, and they're not throwing a ball through a hoop, or they're not trying to, cross a ball over a line and put the ball on the line and stuff. They are physically trying to hurt each other. Tremendous sacrifice that they're making. And I just believe for that sacrifice, they deserve to be well paid for that sacrifice and for entertaining the masses.
Yeah, well, that company is all about the talent, isn't it? It's all about the fighters.
Yeah, and you've got to look at it from both perspectives. Like, at the end of the day, that sport has grown up with that brand, the UFC. The sport wouldn't be where it is without that brand and without that company and without Dana White. I guess the argument is always going to be, till the end of time, is do the fighters get paid enough? And then some of them are going to be satisfied with what they get paid, and some of them are going to think they can get paid a lot more. So, yeah, it's a difficult thing.
Yeah. Have you been following the slap at all? Are you familiar with the slap?
I think that's ridiculous. Yeah,
it is ridiculous. It's absurd. But shit, it's entertaining.
Yeah, but I don't know.
You think it's ridiculous, like from you just don't get it, or from a danger perspective, or a health and safety?
From a danger perspective, and what talent do you need to cock your hand back and slap a person as hard as you possibly can? Is that are we starting to define that as a talent? Yeah. I don't think it's a talent. I don't think it's a talent that should be rewarded anyway.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. You're so refreshingly honest. So the week of a fight, one of these big UFC events, what does that look like for you? Because I'm guessing, say whether it's Izzy or Dan or whoever, there's no more training you can do in that week. So are you sort of like a therapist, a counsellor? Are you just keeping them calm and level? What are you doing that last week?
To be honest, I've got a lot of other people in the team that do that. What I like to do nowadays is I like to oversee everything. So I like to kind of sit over the top of everything and make sure that everything runs smoothly. And also what I like to do is a lot of my own fight preparation. And a lot of that is like just touching up on like last little bits of video analysis, We do a little bit of training, not much. So I like to make sure that I'm covering all my bases in those trainings. And I like to oversee everything. I like to oversee that the transport logistics people have got that right. I like to oversee that the dietitians got his part right. I like to know that the managers of the fighters are, got everything like in line and ready to roll, and security's good to go. I just like to make sure that everything's running smoothly. Yeah, that's kind of my role. There's not a lot to do, you're right. But in terms of my own preparation, I do a lot of, it's a very calming week for me where I get a lot of time to myself, and I just touch up on little things to do with the opponent and the strategy, go back and forth with my other coaches, and just make sure we've got our I's dotted and our T's crossed, I guess, yeah.
And are you a big star in those environments? So you get to Vegas or Florida or New York, there must be like super fans that recognise you. And
yeah, for sure. But no one, for the most part, all the obligations are the fighters. The fighters have to do all the media and stuff. And I hide back in the me and the coaches. We just hide in the hotel. We try not to have, or the Airbnb or whatever. We try not to have anything to do with that. I don't go to the press conferences and stuff, and I just stay at the house. It's nice and quiet at the house when everybody's at the media days and the press conferences. You stay at the house and just collect my thoughts, let them do all the hoopla, and then I come in on that fight day. Yeah. So it's
so you're in the octagon in between rounds, and you're not excited that like Donald Trump's sitting behind you, or Ryan Reynolds is there, or are you a little bit starstruck? You must have these moments where you're like, holy shit, how did a boy from East Auckland end up here? Yeah or no? You just don't buy into the bullshit at all?
Nah.
You must have had a selfie with Rogan.
Nah. But I don't know. You've got to... you got to be a fan. You got to be a fan to see someone as a star, I feel. And I don't, especially nowadays, man, I don't watch movies or TV or anything. I wouldn't know who half the people are. All these people come up to Israel and Dan and that, and there's 1,000 photographers that come up and take photos of those two. I'm like, I wouldn't know who the guy was. Yeah, so I don't really get starstruck.
It's probably like Dave Chappelle or someone like that. Like a really
when you don't know who the people are, you don't really get starstruck. But the other thing is when you do meet some of these people, which I have done, they're just blokes. They're just blokes, mate. Like they're the same as me, really. They're not any different to me. It's just, I guess, when you're on TV and stuff, because they're on TV and they're on the movies or whatever the platform they're on, I don't know, some people put them on a pedestal and stuff, but at the end of the day, they're just normal people.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. But have you met anyone that stands out? You're like, oh, actually, he's just a person, but he's a really good person, or she's a really good person.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh, really? Zuck?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Had a really good 10-minute conversation with him about, he's really into martial arts and fight sports. Very nice, genuine bloke. Very pleasant conversation. Yeah, he's a good dude. When I walked away from that conversation, I went, no, he's a really cool, straight dude. Good on him.
And ironically, you're probably one of the only people in the world that doesn't have like an Instagram page. Do you have an Instagram page?
I do not, but I tell you what. I tell you one thing. The business has an Instagram page. The business has an Instagram page, and a couple of Romanian lads took it over. They tried to hide. They took the passwords, and then they messaged us, and that's the classic. Oh, well, give me, $500,000 or something to get the page back. And I was like, I'll just start a new page.
Yeah, you can have it.
Yeah, but in the end, it's good knowing who Mark Zuckerberg is. Quick call in his direction, and he puts you onto the right people, and they get back your Instagram page.
What do you mean in his direction? Have you got a direct dial to Zuck?
You get his team. You get his team. You never get a direct dial to the man himself, but you are able to get his team, and they are able to point you in the right direction in terms of getting your Instagram page. The rigmarole you have to go through to get your Instagram page is crazy. You have to send photos of yourself to get it back. And I was like, man, I can't do this. So I just I had to make a few calls, and then I got it back.
Shit, that's good. Not who you know. Oh, semi-educated guess. Who would win out of Zuckerberg and Elon Musk?
I always got to back my man Zuck.
Elon Musk is a bigger dude, though, isn't he? Does weight or
he's a bigger dude, but Mark, he knows about fight sports, and he's dedicated, and he knows about technique and strategy, and he's a proper fight enthusiast. I think Elon would just be going in there and relying on just pure size, weight, and athletic advantages, and I'm not sure that's going to be enough. I think technique, and I think Mark's technique and skill will trump Elon's physicality. It's just my opinion.
I appreciate it. Jeez, you're a big fan of Zuck, though. Zuck can do no wrong with Eugene. And what about post-fight at the UFC? What does that look like, especially on a bad night? So I'm guessing like a big night where you win a belt. It's a celebration, so there's nothing that needs to be said. What's it like when it's a loss?
I have nothing to do with a big night after a big win, because they are just you just don't want to be a part of them. They're just there's too much drunkenness and debauchery going on. There's a lot of partying going on.
But yeah, you can understand, even from a coach's perspective, you must be able to understand why. Like 12 weeks, 16 weeks of intense discipline.
Yeah.
There's a lot of steam to blow off.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm all about it. I think you should blow some steam off, and you should celebrate your wins. They don't, they're finite. They don't happen forever. You can't do the sport forever. Celebrate them, have a good time. Do it safely is my one sort of thing, Do it in a safe environment around good people. That's always the key thing there. But a night where you lose, absolute dog shit. There's some of the worst nights of my life.
Do you say anything to the fighters on the night, or do you like give them time to sort of debrief and process it themselves? Yeah,
depends who they are. Depends on their personality. Some fighters, they want to go get debriefed straight away. What went wrong? What could we do better? And you've got to do an analysis right then and there. Hooker, never say a word to him. You just walk out of the stadium and go home, grab a feed and go home. You don't have to say anything to him. We're lost. You don't want to hear about it. That's it. You don't want to acknowledge it. But man, it's losing's tough at the top. Losing's tough. In such a cutthroat sport, cutthroat world, and you got to understand. You have how the UFC pay structure is structured is you have X amount. You have half of your pay for showing up, and you have half of your pay for winning. So essentially, if you don't win, you're only getting half as much as you could have potentially earned if you win. And that could be $150,000, $250,000, $300,000.
Yeah.
Cut because you can't win. That's pressure.
Yeah. Oh, that is a lot of pressure.
That's huge pressure. Huge pressure. Imagine in 15 minutes being able to, having the responsibility to be up 300,000 or down 300,000 in a 15-minute space of your life. Something that you just trained 3 months for. And this is what your family needs that money, your family, the people, your bills, everybody needs that money. All the people around you, they need that money. If you go without it, man, it's huge pressure.
Yeah. Actually, there's something in the Style Bender movie. You sort of touch upon the financial situation, like Izzy does in particular. Like, so are you on a percentage deal with him?
Yeah. It mostly works like each trainer, and they're on a percentage, and then each trainer negotiates what that percentage is between him and the fighter. Right.
So you get say like 10%, 5%, whatever.
I get a few percentile.
Few percent. Yeah. You can see he makes out in his movie that like he's set up for life, and it looks like he's doing pretty good. But he says you are as well.
Yeah. I mean, Izzy has looked after me, but I've looked after him. You see, it's the relationship is. There's a part in that movie where he gets a bit pissed off, and he probably says something that he probably shouldn't have said, or I disagree with it all. I don't agree with it all, and most people wouldn't agree with. But Izzy came to me with the goal, and I was like, man, let's do it. I'll do everything in my power to help you achieve that goal. And I did. And he's eternally grateful for that. And he pays me for that. And in return, I do the very best job that I could possibly do. I did that for a decade without ever getting a cent. You know what I mean? And I didn't know whether he would ever make any money, because you just don't know. There's so many things that can happen, in a fighter's career. You don't know whether they're going to be successful and make, large amounts of money. You just don't know. So I went on that journey with him. We went on that journey together, and we were lucky enough to, kind of break through and achieve some of our goals. And we did that together, and we look after each other because of it. Yeah,
it's been an incredibly successful partnership, and due to his age now, it looks like you're going to be the only coach that he ever has. For this portion of his career, like it's not going to be like a Joseph Parker situation where it's like, no, we've reached the end of the road. It's time to try something different.
Yeah, but you have to. The reason that I have a lot of fighters that stick with me and my coaching team and my gym is because my coaching team, myself and my gym are always evolving. There's always something to improve. There's always something to learn. There's always a new point out of the sport where you can take an advantage from over other teams. And it's that thirst for involvement that keeps the fighters interested in training with you. And when you stop doing that, when you get bored of the sport and you don't want to evolve and you don't want to find out the new techniques and new strategies, that's when fighters are like, man, I have to go somewhere else. You're not evolving as fast as the sport's evolving. So I'm not evolving. And so just one thing me and my coaching team have always done, we've moved very, very quickly with the sport. Yeah.
Now, how's your relationship changed over the years as he's got more famous and more successful? I don't know. I probably wouldn't have thought about, this line of questioning until after watching the Stylebender movie. But like, there's one line in particular where you talk about the silk sheets theory, which I really like.
Yeah. I mean, he's less accessible. Like, I don't see him as often, but it was easy to see him, when none of us had any money, because what could you do? You had to hang out with me. You had $5 in your pocket, and I had $10 in my pocket. So together we had $15. All we could do was hang out together in the gym. Well, that's not the case anymore. I'm still always in the gym, but he wants to, he wants to
have some balance.
The fruits of his labour. Like, he wants to enjoy the fruits of his labour, and he's entitled to do that. So, he can go and jet ski and go fishing and travel to see his friends in London and stuff. Like, he has the freedom to do that. I guess what the thing that he has to be aware of is he just has to keep everything in balance. He's still a professional athlete. He's still a professional sportsman. So, you can do so much of that, but at a certain point, when does that start to take away from who you are and what you're doing? He's got that balance pretty good for the most part. I think he's turning a corner a little bit later in life and realising what all kind of athletes that are coming into their mid-30s realise, and that realisation is that they've got to dedicate themselves a little more to their craft than what they did when they were young. And I think he's coming to that realisation, so yeah, he's got a few good ones left in him. Yeah,
I heard him do a podcast with a guy called Theo Vaughn who loves the fighting.
Yeah,
and as he talked about how through his 20s it was like he was living on a diet of Uber Eats, and now he's got like a mate that lives with him that's like a chef, so he's taking care of the nutrition side of things, which I I suppose it's all like, 1%ers or 2%ers here and there. Maybe a little bit more than that for the nutrition, but...
Yeah, like, as you know, like, you just, your body, your mind might work the same as when you're young, but your body just starts to operate differently. Yeah, and so if you want to be a professional athlete at the top level, you have to adjust the way that you live, especially from your mid-20s.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to get away with that stuff. So it's just, again, he's going through a bit of a learning phase, or he's been going through a bit of a learning phase the last couple of years, getting that balance right, realizing that his body isn't operating the same way it was when he's 25, and he's adjusting a lot of things in his life and his lifestyle and the way that he trains to suit that. I think the important thing is that you make that realization and start to make the adjustments. Yeah.
Would you say that you two are friends, or do you need to sort of keep a respectful sort of distance in order to... Because in the Style Bender movie, there's a couple of scenes that are really fucking awkward to watch, actually.
Yeah.
The one where he's not in training because he's clipping his nails and you give him a serve. Then there's another one where he's late for an early morning training in Vegas. You drop the C-bomb. It's a very angry scene. I'm guessing if you're really broy with someone, you can't sort of have these tough conversations. Is this something that you've consciously done over the years? Like sort of kept each other at arm's length?
Yeah, there's definitely a tight bond there, a friendship. Right, but I guess I'm a little bit judicious with it, because most of the time with Israel, my integration into his life is as a coach. It's as a coach. So I'm very judicious with the moments that I have to be a friend. But it's definitely there. He's my mate. I won't train anybody who's not my mate. I won't. You have to be someone who I would consider your mate before I'm willing to give you so much sacrifice, and me and my coaches are willing to give you so much sacrifice. So I guess I'm just a little bit judicious about when I need to be his friend, and when I need to be his coach. Because at the moment, or most of the time in his career, I've had to be more of his coach than his friend. So yeah, I guess that's a good way to explain it.
Because you're very different dudes, aren't you? Like he says in the Style Bender movie that you're much, much older than him, but you're not really. Like he's in his 30s, you're in your 40s. But you're in your white Honda Civic, and he drives up for the first time in his brick red McLaren, or his orange McLaren, whatever it is. Yeah. What do you make of that? Are you like, for fuck's sake?
Fuck. We're very, very, very different, right? Okay, so we have completely different perspectives on lives and how we approach things, and I'm a little bit more conservative, so I live a comfortable life. I'm not gonna lie. Like I've got some money. I didn't always have money. There was a time when I had no money, and I am conservative with that. I would rather people think that I don't have any money. Yeah, which is a little bit of the opposite approach for him. I think he doesn't mind being a little bit more flashy with his money. But at the end of the day, what does it matter? At the end of the day, he worked hard for his money, and I worked hard for my money. And how we display that, it doesn't really matter. It's not illegal money. It's not money from drugs. It's hard-earned blood, sweat and tears money. The best kind. The best kind. You have to sacrifice years and years, heartache, blood, sweat, tears. It's the best kind of money. The money that you actually have to grovel in the dirt to get, pick yourself up and climb to the highest pinnacle to get. So that's the best kind of money. Hard-earned money is the best money, and he's entitled to spend it and display it however he wants, and I'm entitled to do it how I want. It's just different, right?
Yeah, I read a quote from you saying that if you lived on your own, you could just, in your house, just have like one chair, one bed, one bowl, one knife, one fork. What do you spend your money? Do when you fly to like the UFC, do you splash out on business class seats?
I do not. Yeah, this is the thing, right?
You're a big dude. Those economy seats are awful.
Yeah, but you're talking about you're talking about 10 grand. Yeah.
Yeah, but come on. You're one of the top coaches in the UFC.
Yeah, but you're talking about, it's still 10 grand. So it doesn't matter how much money I get. I still look at it, I'm like, 10 grand. Why would I spend 10 grand on a seat for a 13-hour flight? I could do so much more with that 10 grand. So much more. And there's that side of it, and that comes from, I just came from a middle income, I didn't come from a poor family, I came from a middle income family, so there wasn't, we had money, but we didn't have great amounts of money, so 10 grand's a lot of money to a middle income family. I'm like, 10 grand, it has a lot of value for me, no matter how much money I've got, 10 grand on a seat is just ridiculous, right? But also, there's another side of it, and yeah, I have surrounded myself with a lot of people. Some of them are very wealthy, some of them are middle income, some of them are very poor. Some of those people have helped me get to the heights that I've got. Some of those people have helped Israel get to the heights that they are. I'm not going to spend 10 grand on a seat when I could give that 10 grand can go to them. Because if it wasn't for those people, I wouldn't have the ability to buy that seat, or I wouldn't have the ability to support my family. And you just can't justify that. And that's how I look at things in my head. That's where I come from. Something. Can I get this 15 grand business seat? No, because I know people that help me get through this journey, who I help and support as much as I can. I can't justify getting that 10 or 15 grand seat when I know my mate would do so much more with that 10 or 15 grand. It's just ridiculous.
I love that so much. I was listening to a very old podcast you did this morning, and you told a story about your sister, who's like the head of FIFA, women's soccer. And you guys were comparing your schedules because she was bitching about how much flying she does. Yeah. So you're comparing schedules, and then turns out she does about the same amount of flying as you, but most of her flying is either done in first class, business class, or even private jets. I thought, but that was an old podcast. I thought you may have changed by now with all the success, but nah. What you see is what you get, eh?
She don't know about this life, brother. She don't know anything about the hardship of my life. Okay, she's raped up in cotton wool by those people in Switzerland. She doesn't know nothing about the hardships of being a UFC coach. Nah, but yeah, I will not spend money unnecessarily if I think it's just stupid or a waste of money, or I think other people probably be more deserving of that money than me spending on something frivolous. It's just the way I am. Maybe that's the Dutch side of me. Maybe that's the Dutch side of me.
Because I've done over 100 episodes of this podcast. Now, I don't know if I've ever met anyone that's as comfortable in their own skin as what you are. Yeah, I think that's a big compliment. I think that's a massive compliment. Have you always been this way, or
definitely haven't always been this way. I think fighting and martial arts helped me become that way. I think I was not a particularly confident person when I was at school or when I was at university or playing rugby. But there's something about walking into a cage, walking into a ring, and fighting someone that there's something about doing that and taking away from that. What you take away from that is that, man, it's such a difficult thing to do. Why would it be difficult for me to talk to Mark Zuckerberg? I've done that. I've walked in the cage. I've trained for 12 weeks. He essentially wants to beat the shit out of me. I want to beat the shit out of him. I've shook his hand at the start. I've shook his hand at the end. It's tremendously hard for me to overcome that. I managed to do that. Why would a conversation with Mark Zuckerberg or a podcast with Harvey or any sort of conversation or anything in life be difficult after that?
Yeah.
The answer is that when you really think about it, that's the hardest thing I've done in my life. That's the hardest thing I've done in my life. Everything else is easy compared to that. So it's a funny sort of perspective that not everybody's going to agree with or not everybody's going to have, but that's kind of my philosophy. That's how I kind of look at things. That's my worldview, if you like.
You think getting in a cage is tough. Have you ever done economy Auckland to New York, 17 hours? No, that's hard.
Look, I believe I have. Yeah.
You're unbelievable.
I believe I have. It's fucking tough. But this is like, I will do it, but you know who won't do it? My wife. And if she goes up to business or whatever, then like, fuck, I'm not going to stay down in economy. So
I love that.
There's a little part of me that, like, when I'm on a trip with my wife, it's like, oh fuck, thank God she's on this trip. I don't have to get economy anymore.
Hey, one thing I wanted to ask you about is your thoughts on like tall poppy syndrome, and I suppose in particular what I'm thinking about is have you ever been nominated for Coach of the Year at the Halbergs?
I have.
You've been nominated, but you've never won.
I've never won, but so what?
Well, to me that seems. I'm probably projecting here, but if I was in your position and I was had the success that you'd had with City Kickboxing, got these guys into the UFC, had all the success, I'd want some acknowledgement back home. I don't know. I think I'd be a little bit upset, maybe.
Nah, because I didn't do it to win a Halberg.
No.
Yeah,
But
I did it to win, for me and Israel could be recognised as the best fighter and the best coach in the world, and I did it so that Israel could be the best fighter in the world. I didn't even really do it so I could become the best coach, but that comes with it. And I didn't do it for Halberg, so I wasn't particularly. I didn't care that I didn't get it. I was happy that the lady that got it, Nolene.
Oh, Tairua, yeah.
Tairua got it that year, I think. I don't know a lot about netball, but they won the World Championship, and that's an amazing feat as well. It's an award show. There can only be one. And you've got a whole lot of magnificent achievements. Only one of them can win the award, so it is what it is.
God, you're so laid back, eh? Are you bothered by anything? Like what? Does anything... What grinds your gears?
I'll tell you what, I'm bothered by people that are born after the year 1995. Eh?
What does that make them? 29? Yeah?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I just have a group of young people in my gym that I call the 95ers, and that's anyone born in the year 1995 onwards. I just think, I just give them so much shit.
Why?
Look, this is a very generalised saying, okay, and it's probably going to get me in trouble, but they just don't have the common sense that I used to have, or me and my peers used to have when we were, 25, 21, 20. They've got nothing. It's weird.
That's a big generalisation. There must be some of them that have some initiative, or...
Look, I'm obviously... I'm taking the piss. I'm taking...
for the most part, though.
I'm taking the piss for the most part, right? I'm taking the piss. But there are a few that are just clueless. They're just clueless. And so they should all suffer because a few of them are clueless in front of mine. So they all get lumped into the same group, and they called the 95ers. They're some of the dumbest people I know. And they have a leader, which is a young man named Navajo Sterling, who seems to have adopted their kind of leadership of their little gang within the gym. But yeah, I don't know. It's just young people, I don't know. Sometimes they feel or seem like to me that they're not getting any smarter than we were when we were young.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And the second half of your life, what's that going to look like? You're gonna die in the gym, aren't you? You're gonna still be working, taking hits to the pads in your 80s, I reckon.
Yeah, it's a funny thing because I try not to make a big thing of it, Dom, but when you're doing what you want to do in your life, when you say, "Oh, this is what I want to do in my life," and you're actually doing it, you've found a very special place. And why I say I don't try to make a big thing of it is because most people, they honestly don't really get to achieve that. My parents, for instance, maybe in retirement, but not as early as I found this sort of freedom. What I want to do in life, well, shit, I'm doing it every day. So every day, like, I don't work. Every day is fantastic to me. Every day it's a holiday. Every single day, I'm doing what I want to do. It's a special place. Not everybody gets to that place. So what am I going to be doing in the second half of my life is I'm probably going to be doing the same thing, bro. Probably the same thing. I would like to spend a bit more time with my family, though. I am softening to that. I am softening to that as I get older. I can see, like, yeah, I was a very young parent. I was 17. And I'm 100% a better parent in my 40s than I was when I was 17. I can see that now, my younger boys, spend as much time as I can with them. And I would like to, as they get a bit older, be with them a lot more than I was with my older two, who are 22 and 18 now. So that's a little goal of mine. Make up for a bit of lost time with them.
Yeah.
And don't let that time get away on my young 3 and 5-year-old that I've got now.
Yeah.
So that's probably what I need to concentrate on.
It's hard though, because you can't get time back. You know, the age they are right now, they're only that age today.
100%.
And also, maybe you won't like them because they're all born after 95.
Yeah, that's the ironic thing. But yeah.
Do you see yourself in them? Is there a bit of Eugene in all of them in terms of like personality traits and attitude?
No, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I see a little, especially in my older boys. I feel I see a lot of me in them. Some of the negative things, some of them are negative things that I saw in myself that are in them, and so I'm able to recognize them and try and help them with that. And some of them are the more positive things, for sure.
What are the negatives? What are your flaws or things that you need to work on?
Well, I've worked on them. I've worked on a lot of them. But when I was young, I was a very, very shy introvert. I didn't try to intermingle with people. I only had a few friends. And sometimes when you're an introvert, you're missing out on so much. Sometimes you need to get out there and just live life and do more. Sometimes it holds you back. So, yeah, one of my sons is probably just a bit too conservative, needs to get out there more and just be a bit more open to possibilities.
Yeah.
But both my sons are great people. They work, they're tremendously hard workers, which is something I've carried on from my father, through to me, through to them. So, yeah, there's a lot of positive things as well.
I love that. Hey, this has been a really enjoyable chat. Hopefully it hasn't been too punishing for you.
No. Like, I haven't done a good podcast for a while, and I tell you what, I enjoy doing a good Kiwi podcast, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and I appreciate you for all that you are. Like, there's it's kind of old school. It's the one thing I've learned from doing this podcast. I've had some really successful people on. Is that the only cheat code is hard work, and that's it. And I feel like you're a poster boy for that.
Yeah, and just being yourself, man. That's my one advice to people who are just running into, all of a sudden in their life, running into heaps of media and reports and press conferences and podcast interviews is just the best advice I got was just be yourself. Don't worry about what people think. And when I get in front of an interviewer or a press conference, I just talk as if we've known each other for the last 20 years, and I just be myself. You can never go wrong like that. When you start to bullshit and pretend and sound a certain way, pretend like you're something else, that's when it just goes crazy. It just goes to another level, and you just dig yourself a hole. So
one final thing, and then we'll let you go. In the Stylebender movie, there's a scene where you talk about him like reading reactions and dealing with social media and stuff. How I don't know if this is something that you were just born with and it's in your DNA, but how can you like ignore the noise and ignore other people's opinions and things like that?
Fuck, it's tough, eh? It's tough because I am the way I am, so it's easy. So
have you just always been this way, or did you grow into this?
I've always been this way, but I'm going to say that I have slipped up a few times. Yep. When YouTube started to come into prominence, like years and years and years ago, I remember reading a comment, and I had a friend. It was my fight, and it was a negative comment about my fight, and a friend of mine found out who it was, and I saw that person like 2 years later, and I went up to that. Yeah, I went up to that person. I was like, and then we had some pretty strong words.
Wow.
Yeah, but then, so that was way back then. But I mean, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, 51.
Yeah, I mean, man, we come from a different generation, right? There was a little bit more accountability for what you said, Yeah, now there's no accountability at all. You can say from a distance anything you want to, but I don't come from that era. Like if someone said something to me on the playground, that person was literally 10 meters away from me, and if I didn't like it or if it was insulting, then I had the chance to rebut that, or I could not acknowledge it, or I could acknowledge it. Now you can't do that, and that's the problem. There's no accountability, and when there's no accountability, you should just stay the hell away from it, in my opinion, because those people are in a much stronger position than you. They can say whatever you want. They can say whatever they want to you, and you can't say anything back or do anything about it. And in that sort of environment, I suggest people just stay away from it. It's a very difficult thing for young people to do. Very difficult. It's one of the things that Israel struggles with. And it's one of the things that, unfortunately, some of his competitors have found out about him.
It's like a weak point.
It's a weak point, and they know it, and they know how they know where his weak point is, and they know they can get to him through that social media. A lot of fighters now have got that Achilles heel, and a lot of other fighters are using that Achilles heel to break through, and it only takes, you're talking about small percentages, and if you're emotional or if you're a certain way before a fight that takes your decision-making processes, that skews them a little bit, that could be the fight. So very difficult thing we deal with in this modern era, but there's no accountability. Just ignore that stuff. Easy for me to say, harder to do.
Easier said than done, yeah.
Yeah, for sure, Dom.
Hey, mate, thank you so much for your time, Eugene. It's been awesome.
I enjoyed it.
And I can't wait to see who is the next star that comes out of City Kickboxing, because you've got these guys in what was like a fringe or a niche sport, and you've made them like household names. And but beyond that, you're just a good guy, and you're teaching like good lessons, good morals, and good values to a lot of people, and I love it.
Appreciate it, Dom. Thank you for having me on the podcast. Couple of years, we'll do it again when you're bigger and better, eh?
Keen as the nutty. No, what was your nickname? Not the nutty professor.
The mad scientist. The mad
scientist. Hey, thanks so much, mate.
No, wicked.